What's up, A to Z Sports Nashville? Good morning on this Thursday. I am your host, Easton Freeze, Titans beat writer reporter, joined by Ryan Roberts once again. And today we are doing a little bit of draft myth busting, going through some post-combine, pre-free agency draft narratives, seeing if we buy or sell them. And we've got 9 that we are going to go through today with you all in the comments. Want to get as much audience participation as possible on today's show because we want to, as a group, not just Ryan and I, but with all of you in the comments, decide, are we buying or selling these 9 narratives before the draft in about 7 weeks? Got a big show for you today. Ryan, before we dive into all of it, tell the people what they got to do.
Well, as always, this is our 4th show, I think, on the morning show. So I want to make this show today the most liked show in A to Z sports history. So make sure before we get into this morning, don't forget to share the show as well. If you're watching on Facebook, hit that share button in the bottom right corner and get it on your feed. If you're watching on YouTube, take that YouTube link and send it to a friend in your life. You can text it to them. You can drop it on any and all of your favorite social media platforms. Just find that Titans fan that you know and let them know that A to Z Sports is live and talking on a Thursday morning. You can also repost this on Twitter or X. Help spread the word that way. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and leave a like on the show before we get into it on this Thursday morning. Again, folks, this is going to be the most liked show in A to Z sports history.
That's
Make
exciting.
it happen right this second.
All right, let's get it started officially. Welcome into the A to Z Sports morning show, live on a Thursday, every weekday morning at 8 Central Time, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links tweeted out segment by segment on our Twitter feed at ATOZ Sports. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more Titans coverage. Also, leave that 5-star Google review for us on A to Z Sports. Got to thank our sponsors for making the show possible this morning and helping out you guys. Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying experience in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute of Tennessee, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedics and sports medicine, boneandjointtn.org. And our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law. A crash can change your life forever, but help is just a click away at bartdurham.com. All right, Ryan. Good morning to you. Good morning to everybody in the chat. We're going to start today with some Titans adjacent narratives, and that's really all we're doing today. Is we're going to go bullet point by bullet point on these things and discuss whether or not we're buying or selling them. So we'll send these in the chat one by one, and we want you guys at home to help us out with some buys or some sells in the comments. The first topic of discussion is going to revolve around the teams the Titans have their eye on as potential trade partners in the top 10 of the draft. And so our first narrative is pretty common, pretty simple, that the Giants are the most likely team to trade up sometime between now and draft day in the top 10. Are they the most likely trade up candidate? Sending that statement in the comments right now. The Giants are the most likely trade up team in the top 10. We want you guys in the comments to say, are you buying or selling that? Ryan, while we wait on them, are you buying or selling that the Giants are the most likely team in the top 10 to trade up right now?
I'm actually selling it, which might surprise some folks.
Whoa.
I think the Giants are probably, outside of Cleveland, maybe jumping up one spot. They're probably the easiest team to make a trade up, right? Going from 3 to 1 is not, it's not going to be crippling in terms of the draft capital or compensation you have to give up. But Easton, I'm looking at this Giants team.
Mm-hmm.
We're combining 2 teams this morning. This Giants team, I think, is in a very strange situation. You have a head coach in Brian Daboll and a GM in Joe Schoen that are on their last leg, and they need to kind of have a really quicker turnaround in 2025. And so I happen to actually think that they are going to go veteran quarterback routes. You know, Aaron Rodgers has obviously been a name that's been out there a million times at this point, but then I think that they most likely go best player available at number 3, because I think they're going to kind of pray that there is that quarterback run early in this class, and maybe they get a Travis Hunter at 3, for instance, just for argument's sake, right? So I think that this is a team that is going to go more veteran route quarterback. They're going to stay pat at 3, maybe even trade down to get some extra capital, potentially, depending on how that quarterback board does fall. But I am selling them being the trade-up candidate. If anything, I think they stay at 3, veteran quarterback, potential trade back. I think that there is too many holes on this roster for the Giants to mortgage the future for a quarterback right now, because I don't think that the general manager and the head coach will be around to see the long-term payback of a potential quarterback in this class. I think that they go veteran route and they figure out quarterback hopefully later if they are able to save their jobs.
Looking at the chat here, Lewis Chesney says he's selling it as well. Richie too. Darius is buying it that the Giants are the most likely to trade up in the top 10, as is Steven and Mario, Caps, Memory, Brian, Mario, Josh is selling it along with you, Ryan, as is Don. NM, Titan, Scott, and Guy are all buying it by big time, says Steven, that the Giants are so desperate. I do like your point that with this front office and coaching staff, unlikely to see beyond this year if they don't have a big season. Ownership is less likely to give the green light to, mortgage the future, right? And so that makes sense from a long-term standpoint. Is there anybody in that building thinking about the long-term future of the Giants is the question, right?
Exactly. That's the question, right? Yeah. I mean,
but
yeah.
What I was going to say is, you seem unconvinced the Giants trade up, which I am fine with. But is there another team that you think is more likely? Because technically the statement is the Giants are the most likely to trade up in the top 10. So who else in the top 10 are you eyeing as a potential trade up candidate?
I think the Jets are one that I'm looking at right now. I mean, you need to figure out the quarterback spot there. They are at number 6, which is like no man's land in this draft for a quarterback. I mean, there's just, unless you're going to convince yourself that like a Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart is worthy of a top 10 overall selection. I know we'll talk about Jackson Dart in this show as well. I just don't see it, man. I don't see them staying firm at 6 because I also just don't know what that veteran quarterback market's going to end up looking like for them, right? Because it's slim pickings to begin with. You're already saying goodbye to Aaron Rodgers. You're not going to have a Sam Darnold reunion with the Jets. Like, that's not going to happen, right? So what is the short-term outlook for the quarterback position? They are a team that I do think if they get better at quarterback and they retool a little bit on the offensive line, I do think the Jets are actually a team that could get a whole lot better in a much shorter window than some of these teams in the top 10. So I am buying 6, trying to trade up to find their quarterback because I just don't know. Like at number 6, you can still find value, obviously. Like this is not you can't get any good players at 6, but you're definitely not getting a quarterback at 6. So I think that no man's land is a little bit scary for the New York Jets in this process.
Let's put a pin in the Jets and revisit them in a minute because they're the topic of our second narrative. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close the chapter here on our first narrative. I'm going to say bye. I hear your argument. I think it's coherent. I'm going to go the other way though, just because I do think that the price involved is the big thing for me. And what it will require to move from 3-1 versus 6-1 or 7-1 or even further down the draft is pretty significant, especially in this draft class where we talked about yesterday, Ryan, moving to 2 or 3 still leaves you firmly in range for one of, if not your choice of, the 2 blue chip prospects in this class. And there are only 2 of them in Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. So I think that's a big, being in or out of the range for those guys is a massive price jump, I think, for this Titans team when they're considering these offers. And so I do think, I'm not going to say it's necessarily likely, more than 50% likely, but I think it's probably the most likely that the Giants are the biggest trade up candidate. And just doing a visual straw poll of the chat, a slight majority agrees with me that it is a buy. So we're going to buy that first one, that the Giants are the most likely trade up team in the top 10. But Ryan, I want you to keep going on the Jets because our second statement, which we are sending in the chat right now. This is the narrative. The Jets are the biggest wild card in the top 10. Now, you brought this one up to me in our pre-show meeting. It was not one that was on my radar, but I am intrigued by it. And you kind of just ran through, I think the primary reasoning that they could be a trade-up candidate. But I want to ask you about, we haven't heard a whole lot in terms of smoke on this team.
Nope.
We know that they got a new regime. They got they have what we think to be an adult in the room for the first time maybe in a while in their new head coach and Aaron Glenn, and they are done with the Aaron Rodgers of it all. Not only are they moving on from Rodgers, but Alan Lazard can you believe it? They granted him permission for a trade. It's so kind of them. Alan Lazard is looking for a trade partner, folks. If you know anybody that's desperate for an Alan Lazard in their life,
there's some CFL teams that might have
right. Please call Aaron Glenn's direct number. They're also, of course, moving on from Devontae Adams. So they are wiping the slate clean from the Aaron Rodgers filth. I don't know, the stink in the room. The stank. What makes you think that they are going to potentially be in on a big swing to kickstart this new regime?
Because nobody knows exactly what they're going to do, right? When the word wild card is simply put, have no idea what way they're going to go, what the direction. But I look at that roster, Easton, and I would love to hear if you agree with this. But I mentioned it already a little bit, but they are a team that I think can turn it around relatively shortly. Right? I'm not going to say 2025 playoff team, but I think within the first 2 years of this regime, they can turn it around pretty quick if they hit on quarterback. Because I look at that roster and I say, I know the long term, because we're talking more short term. Brees Hall, his contract is over after 2025, so that's a conversation point at some point. But you have a very talented running back. You have Garrett Wilson. Olu Fashanu was playing dynamite football down the, or Fashanu, I guess is how he's pronouncing it now.
Yes.
So he's playing dynamite football down the stretch.
How dare he pronounce his name the way that he wants to? Unbelievable.
Dude, for almost over a year, we were calling him Fashanu, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, it's Fashanu." By the way, I'm like, "Oh well."
That's on him for not telling us sooner. He should just tell us sooner. Tell us
it's not on me. It's 100% not on me. So, but you got Olu at left tackle long term. Defensively, you have Quinton Williams, you have Sauce Gardner, you have some pieces that I look at and say like, and they're all still relatively, well, actually, they're all very young pieces, right? So you have a young core there that you say, okay, we hit on quarterback, retool a couple spots, get another wide receiver to help Garrett Wilson out. And that's a team that I think could propel themselves within a year or two of being a much better football team and being on the cusp of at least being a playoff contender at some point within the first 2 to 3 years. So I think that this is the window. If we're talking about windows, that's my big thing with matching quarterbacks to teams. I don't think the Giants are in a rookie quarterback window. I just don't think they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Jets, I think, can be in a rookie quarterback window because there is some foundational pieces already on that roster. If they hit on quarterback and they have better coaching, I think that they are at the premier landing spot for a rookie quarterback in this class to continue to grow with that team. So that's why I think that they are the wild card in this group because, like you said, nobody's talking about them. But I would not be shocked at all if they trade up from 7. Excuse, I said 6 earlier. The Raiders said 6.
7.
They have 7.
Yeah.
If they go from 7 to, let's say, 2, if they like the quarterback that's still on the board there at 2, or they go from 7 all the way to 1, I would not be shocked at all because I think that the winning window with the rookie quarterback can match up for the Jets if they do it right in this process.
I do find it a little bit ominous that it has been so. Whenever any narrative coming out of any building in the top 10 this time of year is so unquestioned, right? It's just so solid. And that's what our teaser, what our third narrative is going to be about. And I have some strong thoughts on that. I question, what are they really doing in there? What's going on in that building? Because I don't buy at all that they know for sure what they're going to do, and we know for sure what they're going to do. That's the biggest thing. If the media is just like, yeah, we know, we have the answers to the test on the Jets, you probably don't have the answers to the test, brother. You probably don't know what's going on. And so why I do desperately want to agree with you. I think that the second biggest wild card in the top 10.
Okay. Who's first?
And, we're going to talk about them in a minute. But first, we're going to look at the chat here. We're going to look at the chat and see who's buying or selling. Again, the statement is the Jets are the biggest wild card in the top 10. That's what we're myth busting right now, that narrative. Are you buying or selling that the Jets are the biggest wild card in the top 10? Andre says, sell. The Browns are the biggest wild card. Andre and I are on the same wavelength. Okay. We'll get to the Browns here in just a minute. Richie says, sell. Lewis says, sell. Gear to the King says he's buying it, as is Darius. Sell and sell and sell from Don King and IR Hoshi. Sell from Top Wildcard. Jeff also says,
in the chat.
I know they say sell that the Browns are. I am not supportive of how much selling there is here. I think you made a good argument, but I'm wondering if King VC says that he thinks it's the Browns. So I think you've identified the biggest wild card outside the top 2 is what I think you've done here, Ryan, because I'm with the people here. Drayden says it's the Titans. Titans the wild card, which there's an argument there. People don't know what they're going to do. Sell. Wow, this is tough for you, man. Sell. Here we go. Jackson's with you. Jackson's riding with you. Corey's riding with you. Okay, so there are dozens of us that are supporting. I just want
everyone to know I'm taking notes on who my riders are in the chat just for future purposes. Okay, I know who the riders here are.
That's fair. That's what I would do as well. Okay, so you know what I think Easton's 2-0 here. I think we are. I think we're selling narrative 2. So we've gone buy and sell Easton's up 2-0 because this is a
I
game we're
didn't know
keeping
we were
score
playing a
in.
game. Who
Me
wins
neither,
in the
but
ends? What's
no,
the
well,
payout here?
it wasn't a game until I won the first two, and I've decided now that it's a game. So on to our third narrative that we're going to bust. And again, we've got 9 of these, so we're going to go hot and heavy this morning. Keep you guys engaged. Want to hear y'all's thoughts. Andre just says he understands your argument. He just thinks the Browns are pivotal, though. And that brings us to our third narrative that we're myth busting this morning. Sending this in the chat right now. The narrative is that the Browns are content to stick at pick number 2 and take whichever quarterback falls to them. The Browns are content to stick at 2 and take whichever quarterback falls to them. Are we buying or selling that the Browns are content? They're good. They're fine with whatever happens at 1. No big deal, man. We know that there's going to be one of these 2 quarterbacks that's there for us at 2. We're going to be happy to take them. Are we buying or selling that? I'll go first on this one, Ryan. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe if you go first, you lose. So we'll test that theory here. We talked some about this yesterday, but I want to kind of rehash it because this is the biggest thing for me right now that is just not passing the sniff test at all about this draft. I don't buy it even a little bit that the Browns are just chilling at 2 because they know one of these quarterbacks to be there for them at 2. And guess what? Conveniently enough, it just so happens that they have these 2 guys graded so similarly that they'd be happy with either of them. We're good with whoever we get. And no, that's not how football teams work. I don't think that's how this Browns team works for all their foibles, for all of their, it's a franchise that's made some interesting decisions. One really big bad one. Other than that, I think it's been better than folks maybe think that they've been in terms of their process, their decision making. I don't think that this, and the argument that you hear, Ryan, is you ask somebody why are they content? And they go, well, because they have to, because they gotta take a quarterback, which is a really bad argument. That's not compelling at all. I get it that it feels like, well, they have to take one of these quarterbacks. You can't, with their situation at quarterback, the only escape hatch is to find some rookie success. Otherwise, they're going to, mire in mediocrity or worse for the foreseeable future. I get that. But that is not a strong enough, compelling argument to make a team throw their process out the window, throw their grading out the window. Because again, there's just no shot in hell that these guys are like, yeah, wow, we came out with, wow, Cam Ward, we got him at an 8.4 and Shedeur Sanders at 8.3. They're basically the same player. Maybe, but I doubt it. I think teams tend to have opinions on these guys and tend to have clear distinctions on quarterbacks. So I am selling this to the moon. I think in the next 7 weeks, we're going to find out some things about what's really going on here, about what the Browns really want to do. And to the Browns' credit, I think they're doing a good job of keeping this close to the vest. We've got plans. Folks don't need to know those plans. Maybe, I have heard from some Browns insiders just this week about how they think in reality, their order of operations is, and I wish I remember who this was so I could credit them, but the order of operations for the Browns right now seems to be Cam Ward, which makes sense. Then Abdul Carter, which also makes sense. Then trade down. So, not all that dissimilar from the Titans, but I think that, maybe that's how these 2 wild cards are, they're star-crossed lovers. This is how they're intertwined. That the Jets are the trade partner for the Browns. The Jets come up to 2 and get their quarterback, and the Browns move down because they wanted Ward or nobody else. So I am selling it. Before we get your answer on whether you're buying or selling it, Ryan, let's see what the chat has to say here.
Yep. And wow. Pulled up already. We got Josh.
Yeah, go through it.
Buy. We got a Richie with a buy. We had buy from Lewis. We have double that from it. But here's the flip here. Here's the flip. Ready? Don says buy, but then we get some sells that come in here. IR Hoshi has a sell.
You're all sheep. All of you buyers are sheep. You're believing what they're telling you.
Look at this, man. Peyton buy. We got Adam buy. Bearded buy. Buy from Demario. We got one sell here. Here comes someone that agrees with you, Jackson. We got a buy from Steven. We got a buy from Darius. We have a sell. A couple sells in a row. Top tier here. We got NM Titan. Buy. Man, there's a lot of buys here, man. I don't know. I got to sell. We got to sell from Andre.
Sheeple. These are sheeple who are they are happy to just scarf down the media cheese that they're being sold right now. And I guess the theory is we've proven the theory that if you go first in the media mythbusters here, then you lose, because I clearly have lost this one unless you agree with me.
That's the tough part that I'm at right
For
now.
the
Is I
for the
agree with
bit,
you
you should just say
100%, but I
bye.
want to go
For the bit,
against
you
you.
should say bye.
I'm also selling it though. I'm not going to take the
Okay.
easy win here. I know I probably should, but
That's
like
noble of you. No, that's
I,
noble.
I I don't buy it. I don't. I think anytime you hear so much smoke around an organization this time of year, because I joke a lot about like Combine Week, right? If you don't know the right people to talk to, you should only believe about 17% of the things you hear. Like it is
Is
a
that the
lot
number?
of
17?
easily, man. I think it's been
Okay.
verified.
There's a
there was
study
a
on that.
yeah, there was definitely a study on that. We have that information.
The
The
33rd
information
team's
was there.
consulting department did a study on that.
17% of information Combine Week is true. The rest of it, it's a farce. Like it just is not real. It's not real. But I sell this one because any time of this year, for the most part, when information gets so easily out into the universe, out into the ether, it's usually not right. And it's usually not right for a reason. I do think that there's some lobbying happening right now for the Browns to want to move a little bit. I think they would be very open to that. You mentioned Abdul Carter, and obviously with the Myles Garrett situation, I know that right now they're saying, we're not trading Myles Garrett. I hear you, but like things change, right? Like things change at some point. So we'll see if
Mm-hmm.
that changes at some point. But I do think that if there was a quarterback they wanted, Easton, they would be aggressive and go and get them. You don't just settle back and let a quarterback fall into your lap. That is not how these things work. The only way to get your quarterback is to be aggressive, unless there's a mistake in front of you. I guess that's
Mm-hmm.
the only argument against it. But I do think that if they knew who the quarterback was that they wanted, they would go and get them. I don't think they would be so much out into the universe that like, hey, we're okay, we're gonna sit at 2 and take the second quarterback. Like, no, 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 no. We do not defer, especially when Kevin Stefanski needs a bounce back here, right? Like he had a lot of promise early on. He had a bad year last year. He needs a little bit of a bounce back here, and I don't think that settling for the second quarterback and a guy that you might not fully believe in, I think that that is a bad trajectory that you're going on if that's the decision that you make.
All right, so I guess the score remains at 2-0-1. The chat now has a win because the chat
Curtis said we sold him, man. There's a couple people that I said
we've
think
changed
we sold
some
him on this
minds.
one.
Okay,
Oh yeah.
hey, well, I think there are some people that are changing their mind, which is good. There are also people that are embracing the sheeple designation, which I've put on the chat. Curtis says that they're the sheeple. Lewis Chesney is buying in the chat.
Nice.
So just happy to be a sheep, which is fine. If you want to, King says sheeple, stamp it. That's right. Yeah, all of you that are buying that are sheep, and you will see. You'll all see. We're 1/3 of the way through the show. We got 6 more. Bork is calling for the chat to hold firm. Don't give ground. Do give ground because we're right. No, don't hold the line. On this, do not hold the line. I think we're right. We've got 6 more narratives to myth bust this morning, but we're 1/3 of the way through the show. Got to go to our super chats, which I was negligent on yesterday, but we're going to be better about those today. King VC says, lock in, like the show. Always appreciate you, King. Good morning to you. And then Jay, just joking, sending a cool $5. Nothing to say. Just happy to be here. Jay, thank you so much. Appreciate you, my friend. Before we move on here, Ryan, I want to tell the folks about our wonderful new friends over at Bart Durham Injury Law. We are brought to you this morning in part due to our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law. A crash can change your life forever, and help is only a click away at bartdurham.com. Your big truck wreck is their fight for justice. They want to be there to help you at all times of the day. You can reach the Bart Durham team 24/7 to get your legal questions answered at 615-242-9000. They believe you deserve to be paid, and their attorneys are available to meet with you whenever and wherever is most convenient, including virtually. So visit their website, bartdurham.com, for current news, blogs, and to contact or live chat with their team of attorneys. They've been in business since 1975, so they have 50 years of experience dealing with all kinds of wrecks, located right here in Capitol View, Nashville, and are a local company, but they'll fight for anybody that's been in a car wreck of any kind in Kentucky or in Tennessee, led, of course, by Blair Durham, a Marine veteran, a great Tennessean. Check them out over at bartdurham.com.
Folks, before we get into the next segment, make sure that if you are live with us on YouTube right now, hit that like button and make sure to share this to any and all of your favorite Titans friends. Want to get them in on this great conversation into the chat. The chat has been amazing today and want to get them a part of the fun here after the show. Don't click out now because we still got a lot more on this show. After the show, though, make sure that you are sharing this podcast. Go over to A to Z Sports NFL on Twitter. Make sure that you hit the subscribe there if you haven't already. And I hope you enjoy the next segment of this show here on a Thursday morning.
Yeah, so let's get it going here with our next grouping of narratives that we're going to be myth busting this morning. The next three are on deck here. And first up, we're going to go to the Raiders. We're going to talk a little bit about what they're doing over there in Las Vegas. And this is one that I've seen, we kind of heard something about this yesterday. So it's maybe a little bit out of date. Well, maybe we're testing the chat to see how much they've paid attention to the news, because there was a little bit of news on this yesterday. But the fourth narrative we have is that Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson could potentially reunite in Las Vegas, solving the Raiders' quarterback problem. Ryan, I'll go first again because it's only fair to go 2-2 here. I never thought that this made any sense at all. Of all the people in the world most likely to go back to Russell Wilson and ride with that, I think Pete Carroll is low on that list. I think there's a reason why, they moved on from him in Seattle all those years ago. I think even if they were still kind of in on him then, they have seen since then what happened in Denver, what happened in Pittsburgh, the reason why he's not the funny thing about the Steelers right now is the narrative you keep hearing is, amongst other guys in free agency, they're most interested in bringing back Justin Fields and not Russell Wilson. And what's strange about that is, when was the last time you remember a backup quarterback that was actually the starter and then lost his job midway through the season, and then the team was wanting to bring them back for more money the next year? It was like, oh, we'll give you a raise for having lost your job this season. We want to kick that other guy to the curb. Very strange situation. But I think it goes to show how little desire there is to keep Russ around. And I've been talking, kind of off topic here. I've been talking for a couple weeks about how I don't think that there's necessarily a chair for Aaron Rodgers. I'm not sure he's going to have a chair when the music stops. And he may, it may be time to learn to podcast, buddy, because I'm not sure that you're going to be starting for a team in 2025. I'm throwing Russell Wilson into that category too, brother. I think it's you both. Hey, congrats! You both got a ring. One of you's going to the Hall of Fame. One of you's definitely not. Thanks for playing. Thanks for the memories. I don't think you're going to have a starting job next year. And so, if Russell lands somewhere as a backup or as a starter, of all the places, I think the Raiders are pretty low on that list. And in fairness, we did hear yesterday. And while you're talking, I'm going to go find the person so I can actually attribute them this time. But we heard that the likelihood of this happening is quite low. So I am absolutely selling the idea that Russell Wilson could be the fix at quarterback for the Raiders. I don't think he's going to be the fix at quarterback for anybody.
Man, this one's tough. This is actually like one that you can convince me on either side, because I think there is some validity to saying the Raiders are in a tough spot quarterback-wise. They might not at least need a stopgap, right? A guy that's a little bit of a bridge. And I think that is a very easy projection, potentially, to Russell Wilson. But I don't know. I don't know if you're just so well-spoken or not, Easton, but you just keep convincing me before you even finish. I
am also so well-spoken. Thank you.
I am selling this one as well because of some things that I heard in Indianapolis more than anything. It sounds like I've heard similar things to you.
Captain Sources over here.
Yeah, I think there's a chain of outcomes here. And I think the first chain is Russell Wilson comes back to Pittsburgh. The second one, I think, is Justin Fields. And in those each scenarios, I think that the most likely outcome is that they also draft a quarterback somewhere day 2 or in the mid rounds. Like Will Howard is a guy from Ohio State that I've heard that they like a decent amount in like the 3rd or 4th rounds. I don't know if that'll end up being the guy that they end up really focusing on, and that's their guy and that's their target. But either way, I do think one of those two quarterbacks comes back. But the thing that you said about Justin Fields, which sold me to sell here mostly, is that's a clunky situation to go back to a place that you are not truly, like, you're not believed in. Like, let's call it what it is. Like, Pittsburgh does not fully believe in Justin Fields. They believed in Russell Wilson more. And Russell Wilson
But now they believe. Okay. Now they believe in Justin more.
Right.
Clearly, so they believe in Justin more.
It's so weird, man. So I'm gonna sell it just because I think there's a more likely outcome potentially than the Raiders. So if I'm doing the percentages here right and kind of leaning one way or the other, I'm going to say sell. I don't think he's reunited with Pete Carroll.
All right, so I'm selling it, you're selling it. I'm going to check the chat here to see who gets the point, whether we lose or we all win. See if the chat's also selling it. Hopefully the sheep will have come around on this one. But here's the quick follow-up for you to noodle on while I go check the chat, Ryan. If not Russ, then who? Who today are we predicting will be the Raiders starting quarterback at the beginning of 2025? You think about that for 1 minute. I'm going to go to the chat here.
Yes.
Darius is selling it, as is Peyton. Drayden says he's buying it. Bork says solves the quarterback problem for a year. Does it though? Bork says just kidding. Bork is selling it. He came around. Bork is selling. Andre is buying that he'll be the bridge for a rookie. Top tier is selling, as is Steven and Eric. Major Key says, I thought that they were beefing. Yeah, I don't know. I'd be very curious to know on, behind closed doors, what the relationship is between old Pete and Russ. I would not be surprised if it wasn't the greatest in the world. They did win a ring together, went to 2 Super Bowls together, won a lot of games together. But
can anybody beef with Pete Carroll? He seems like one of the nicest people of all time.
I'm with you. But if there was somebody, I think Russ might find a way.
Russ might be the guy. Yeah.
Edward said, we're buying and selling. Yes, brother, Edward, we're buying and selling all show. We're going to buy or sell 9 times today. And if you want to say buy or sell and then give your little bit of your little tidbit, I know it can be boring to just say buy, sell, buy, sell. Be like Andre, say buy, and then give your explanation. We'll be happy to read it here on the show. Tall Texan says, Pete just got the job. Russ will get him fired. I'm not crazy about Russ there, so I think that is fair. Let's see. Richie says selling it and it's on sale. We're all inventory must go on this sell for Richie. So I think we all get a point here. I think it is now 3-1-2. The chat is still technically beating you, Ryan, because we all got a point, but there's plenty of room for you to make up some ground here as we finish through the show. We are all selling that Russell Wilson will be a quarterback for Las Vegas. So before we move on to our 5th narrative, Ryan, have you figured out in the past 60 seconds who is going to be the starting quarterback for the Vegas Raiders next year?
I think it's going to be Aiden O'Connell to start the year, and they're going to draft the quarterback at some point, and hopefully he takes over at some point in the 2025 season.
So rookie quarterback eventually.
Look, man, like we just talked about the Jets, the Raiders are in a similar conversation, right? Like they're picking number 6, unless they're aggressive and go and get up a quarterback, which I guess is possible. I mean, they should at least be eyeing options right at the top of the draft. If they just stick at 6 or end up trading back, if whatever it ends up being, they are not going to take a quarterback at 6. I'd be very surprised if they take a quarterback at 6. Could they take a day 2 quarterback this year? Is a Jalen Milroe on the board? Is a Jackson Dart someone they like? Like I don't know ultimately, but I will predict, to be safe, the only quarterback that I think is on the roster right now, and that's Aiden O'Connell. That's the guy that starts the first game of the 2025 season, barring a trade up.
I am going to say, I won't be surprised by that, but I'm going to say that they go get Darnold. Somebody's got to win the Darnold sweepstakes, right? It's going to be somebody.
Baby. Tennessee, place is waiting.
Yeah, I don't know. In fact, I do know. I think probably not. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, we'll move on. We'll move on that. That's a whole can of worms we're not going to open. Okay. I saw something that Orlando says, are we handing out participation points on the show today? Apparently we are. Yes. I think everybody gets a point I wanted to get Ryan on the board is really what I wanted. So we did that.
Well, if you put an extra vote in the chat, everybody, you get extra ones for Ryan if you want. Just throw it in there.
Is that right? He's trying to buy voters down the stretch run of the show today.
I'm not buying. I'm just asking for them. So
Jake asks, where do y'all see Dart going in the draft? Brother, we're one narrative away from talking about that. So, put a pin in that, Jake. We'll be right there for you on that. Here's our 5th narrative that we're myth busting today, though. Another Titans specific one, or Titans adjacent, I suppose. Abdul Carter's foot issue will impact his draft stock. Now, we're not asking whether or not it concerns you or not. We're asking, will Abdul Carter's foot, his stress reaction in his foot, not stress fracture, stress reaction, will it change where he goes? Will he go in a different position than he would have otherwise gone because of this issue to his foot that is mildly concerning? That's the narrative that I am sending in the chat right now. That's what we're going to be myth busting. And before I get your take on it, Ryan, because you're back up to start for us here, I want to once again let people know we did a doc talk with one of the specialists, orthopedic surgeon, who is a specialist in foot and ankles over at the Bone and Joint Institute, which we will be running today on the YouTube. So later this afternoon, probably sometime a little bit after lunch, we'll have a bit of, I think around 10-minute conversation. I got to sit down with one of the doctors over there. Great guy, very informative conversation. I left understanding a lot more about what the heck a stress reaction even is and what the concerns are long term, and why or why not he got this, why or why not you should get the surgery, why ultimately he did not get the surgery, and what that means for him as a player going forward. Very interesting conversation. That being said, Ryan, are you buying or selling that his draft spot will be changed based on his foot injury?
First and foremost, I think this is not a fair question now that I know that you have some inside information about stress reactions. I don't think this is a fair one at all. This is not a,
I'm juicing on this question. I apologize for that.
I'm going to sell it that it has a major difference in his draft stock.
Okay.
I'm selling it.
But it doesn't be a major difference. It has to be any difference.
Any difference.
We're talking about the difference between being number 1 overall and being number 2 or 3 overall.
Well, I never thought he was going to be the number 1 overall pick. So okay. I am selling it because I still think he'll be somewhere in the 2 to 3 range in this draft when all is said and done. Maybe 4, but I'll say 2 to 3 just to be safe here, because I do believe
you think the floor for him is 4th overall. Which I think
the floor is 4. Yes, I don't think,
and that requires both quarterbacks to go, right? Yes. that means both quarterbacks went in the top 3.
And if only one goes in the top 3, then I think that this is a very easy one for me. That's the only thing that is something that could slide guys slightly.
Right? What are the numerical odds on a non-quarterback not named Travis Hunter going off the board before Abdul Carter? It's plus 20,000. I mean, it's outrageous. Who could it even be? Somebody falls in love with Michael Williams. Somebody is head over heels for Ashton Genty and just goes rogue.
Look.
Are you a big Shamar guy? Do we need to add that as a narrative?
Guy, but the NFL is a big Shamar guy. So
yeah, I think the NFL's wrong.
Yeah,
I think it was put best yesterday by a friend of mine on Twitter that Shamar Stewart. This is so off topic, but I wanted to get this take off.
Yes,
Shamar Stewart is hang on. I don't want to misphrase it. Go ahead. I'm gonna go find it. I'm gonna go find it.
I believe that even if there is that run on quarterbacks, the top 2 picks or 2 out of 3, whatever it ends up being, I do believe that Abdul Carter is still going to be a top 4 draft selection when all is said and done, because I think there's tiers here, right? There is the 2 best players in the class, which are Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, in whatever order that you want to have there. Those are the blue chippers up top. There's the 2 quarterbacks, and then there's figuring out what that next tier is of draft prospects. So unless there is a long-term implication where you're like, man, I'm not this is ugly. This is really, really bad stuff with the stress reaction, then maybe some movement happens. But I haven't personally heard, and I know you have a little bit more insight of this after talking to the doctor, but I have not heard something that says, I am terrified of this. Oh my God, this is going to set him back twofold long-term. So I am selling it because I still think he goes in the top 4 selections, even with that foot injury that he's dealing with.
All right, so we're buying or selling whether or not Abdul Carter's foot injury, his stress reaction, is going to impact where he goes in the draft. Ryan, I'm going to send you to the comments to see what the folks are saying before I give my answer, but I found the tweet that I was talking about on Shamar Stewart. My friend Marcus Whitman, who's awesome, you guys should follow him at TFG_football. He said, Shamar Stewart is Trayvon Walker in a better draft class with no Trent Baalke as a GM. I think that's bullseye. No. I think it's bullseye, center of the dartboard. Shamar Stewart is just this year's Trayvon Walker. And there's no Trent Baalke to go get him at 1. That's how I feel.
There almost was a Trent Baalke until all the Jacksonville head coaching candidates were like, I don't want to play.
Shad Khan tried for there to be a Trent Baalke, and then it didn't work out. Yeah. So what's the comment section saying? Are they buying or selling this?
Looks like it's a majority sell here, but let's work down the list. We got Clayton, who's selling it. We have D. Christophel, who is selling it as well. Caleb sell. Vanessa sell. Eric sell. Corey sell. We have Curtis says, I hope it does so buy. So he's hope buying in this situation. He hopes that it does.
Wait, why would you be hoping that it impacts his draft stock? Because you
maybe Titans trade back and they're still in there in their laps. I don't
okay,
know.
maybe.
That's my
Or maybe he's hoping it
hypothesis there.
convinces the Titans to just take the quarterback instead of being tempted by the
Oh,
edge at one. That
I
could
would
be a thing.
Curtis, if you want to put that in the chat, that's interesting. I would
Curtis
love to know
playing
what
40
your
chess
thoughts
here.
are.
He's thinking 7 steps ahead.
I love it, man. Galaxy brain right now. Love it. Ashley also says sell. We have. I haven't found a buy yet. Oh wait. Here. All right, sell. And then we do have a
All
buy
right.
from Richie. Shoulder as well too. So he's got the shoulder injury and the foot injury. So he's going to buy it because of both things there. David sell, Chris sell. I just had up there. We had Brad who was selling. Corey said it all depends on his pro day. I mean, medical rechecks are a part of the conversation for sure. I understand where you're trying to go with that one. Donald sell, Denise sell, Orlando sell, Kenneth sell. Man, we got all the sells in here. I don't think I've seen a true buy other than there being like a caveat on top of it being for a buy. You know what I mean? So
all right, well, here's a true buy. I'm buying it.
90 something percent says sell. Wait, you're buying it. You're actually buying it.
Yeah, okay. Here's your buy. I'm buying it. Which is a shame, which means you win this one. It is 3-2. You are tied with the chat now on the heels of me in our competition here. But I have to be true to myself, and I think a big impact? No. But what I do believe is that for a lot of teams, there's probably a pretty serious conversation on their board about Travis Hunter versus Abdul Carter and those two players, those prospects, very different players. Probably depends on your need, also how you view those guys. But if I'm looking for a tiebreaker, a guy's current injury history concern is enough for me. And, I am cheating a little bit based on my conversation with the doctor. I said last week from the combine with Austin that I wasn't worried about this at all. I am like 10% more worried about it after my conversation on the Doc Talk episode that'll run later today on the A to Z Sports YouTube channel. I wouldn't say I am concerned, but I am a little bit wary, maybe is the right word for it, of what this is going to mean. And really the biggest reason why I'm wary is that he didn't get the surgery. And there's an argument. I'm not going to spoil the whole Doc Talk. Go listen to it. There's an argument to be made for why you didn't. It makes sense why he didn't. But there's also some risk inherent in not doing it. And so that's what, for me, I think, it could be the difference between him going, if he was previously going to go 1 or 2, maybe now he goes 3 or 4. And Travis Hunter and a quarterback go ahead of him when maybe that wouldn't have been the case before. So I'm going to buy it, which means I have 3 points. Ryan, you have 2, and the chat has 2.
Don't call it a comeback. We're coming though.
We have how many? We have 4 more narratives to get to, and we're running up against time once again. But I told Austin yesterday my goal is to make every last thing that I do as long as possible. I want to go over on all of my content. Yesterday, I was set out to write an article on the Titan Stadium that was going to be like 500 words. It was 1,600 words. Whoops. All right. Our next narrative before our final break of the day, we're going to talk about another quarterback, not Chitter Sanders, not Cam Ward. How about we head up or down to Ole Miss, go visit Lane and say, Lane, tell us about your boy Jackson Dart. Is he going to sneak into the first round of the NFL draft? Is Jackson Dart going to sneak into so here's the statement. Jackson Dart will sneak into the first round of the NFL draft. Are you buying or selling that he could be a first rounder, the Ole Miss quarterback? For context, we saw yesterday, who was it? Charles Davis's latest mock for NFL.com has the board going Cam, or was it Shedeur or Cam first? I forget. I think Shedeur.
Yeah, I
think it was Shedeur to the Titans, Cam to the Browns, and Jackson Dart to the Giants. And he took the most gratuitous media narrative ever. I mean, I had to almost take my hat off to this when I read it. I was like, what's he going to say to justify Jackson Dart to the Giants? And he opens up that paragraph just with his pen on fire. The last time that the Giants took a quarterback from Ole Miss, it worked out pretty well, which is just delicious writing, delicious narrative spinning. Did a fantastic job. I'm sold. I'm in. You know what? Good point. Great point. That logic tracks. They just take Ole Miss quarterbacks and they work. Of course, referring to Eli Manning and the pair of Super Bowls that he won in the Hall of Fame career that he potentially had. So Is it my turn to go? Yeah, it's your turn. It's your turn to go first again, still here. Ryan, tell me about your thoughts on whether you're buying or selling Jackson Dart being a potential first rounder, going in the 30s, perhaps.
I'm probably going to lose this one because I did peek at the chat here to just see what people were thinking here. But I'm selling this, man.
Okay,
I just am because I have just not heard. I understand that there's some buzz from Charles Davis. I think that there was somebody else that had him at like the back end of the first round. Pretty.
It was
like the mainstream
Todd McShay put out his top 50.
Yeah.
And at back to back at like number 30 and 31, he had Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck out of Louisville.
Oh,
he's got 4 quarterbacks in the top 31. Yep.
I hate this time of year because I'm like, to get in this process, I'm like, you know what? I like Tyler Shuck. I'm like, man, day 3 kid, you take a swing on. That's cool, man. Now we're mocking him in the first round. This is just, it's too much.
It really is. It's like the movie or the show that you fall in love with, and then the fan base ruins it for you. And you're like, well, now I have to shut up about this. That's how it is with prospects this time of year. It's like, what they've gone so overboard that now you making me be a hater. Why are you making me be a hater?
And it happens every year where you're just like, I'm high on this guy to start over the consensus. And then when the hype comes back around, you're like, man, I'm way lower on this now. Like, I'm way lower on
Never mind. Okay, got it.
I think we do this sometimes because there's always a quarterback demand. And we've talked about several teams that need a quarterback in this class. And we're like, oh, there's going to be another one. There's going to be a third. It doesn't always work out that way, though. Like, you just flash back to 2022 where someone forced Kenny Pickett at number 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we were talking that whole process about Malik Willis, and people love him, and some folks love Desmond Ridder, right? Like, Desmond Ridder's a guy.
Pickett, Ridder going 1, 2, 3. That's
yes,
right.
Yes. We literally did the same song and dance that year. Now, fortunately, for this class, there is a couple quarterbacks that more deserve to be in that conversation, right? Like, Cam Ward deserves to at least be at the top. Shador's been in that conversation for a while. Jackson Dart just is not a first round quarterback to me. Like, he's just not. And I've yet to hear from a scouting friend or source around the league that I have yet to hear a single person that has told me we would draft him in the first rounds. Not even that they will, that they would if he was
Travis
on the
May
board.
told me that he would take him in the first overall.
First
of all, how dare
Travis
you?
had a lot of back and forth about Jackson Dart over the last.
Travis is a scouting friend, and he would take him at number 1. So
yes, very good.
That's erasure on your part.
It's a great point. It's a great point. I just don't buy it. I'm selling it hard. I think that he will be valued somewhere in the top 64. Like, I think he will go in the second round.
Okay,
for sure.
Is he quarterback 3?
See, man, like, I think there's a split around the league. I still talk
to
a couple that still like Jalen Milroe a lot, even though he's a pure developmental guy. Like,
I think Milroe is quarterback 3.
I think he might be too. I really do.
For a very different reason than Dart, but
yes.
Yeah.
I think both those kids have a chance to go in the top 64, potentially even top 50, depending on how boards shake out. And you can even sell me on someone trading up somewhat early in the second round to try to get Jackson Dart on their team. Like, you could sell me on that.
Maybe the Titans trade out of 35 because somebody wants to come get, Jackson Dart.
Right,
maybe.
Right. And you would be a profit on your trade scenario in your mock trade this week, right?
So, who's the team that would get tilted on day 2? The Jets don't get a quarterback. They decide that that's their swing. Raiders decide that that's their swing.
It's possible.
Steelers decide they're going big with the second round quarterback.
Yeah,
the Colts out of nowhere from the top rope. Competition.
It's fortunately for Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck and a couple of the other guys that there is going to be demand still. There's going to be demand. I just don't think there's going to be first round demands. I just don't buy it. So I am selling on Jackson Dart first round. Feels like the chat was very against my perspective on that, but I am selling the Jackson Dart first round hype.
Well, before I share my perspective, let's see what the chat had to say. Corey said he's buying it that Jackson Dart could sneak into the first round. Steven says he's buying it after the way that he performed at the Combine last week. Mario is buying it. Lewis is buying it. Tall Texan says, yes, same talent as the top 2 quarterbacks in the conversation. All right. All right. Brad says he's buying it. Eric says that he is selling it. So we've got somebody on the sell train here. Let's see. Corey's selling it. He says, don't drink the Kool-Aid on Jackson Dart. Scott is buying it. Drayden is buying it. Ashley is buying it. Praise YJ is buying it. Darius is on the sell train with you. Richie appears to be on the sell train with you. Clayton says buy because some team's going to want the 5th-year option, which I think is overrated quite a bit. Andre says yes. He's buying it. Dart will go bottom of the first. Denise says buy. Caleb says sell because I watched him suck in college.
It's
Uh,
fair.
fair.
At times.
It's
At times. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but yeah, overall, Coach McAvoy, Sean's in here just laughing at Charles Davis's mock. Which, hey, listen, to win for team content, I suppose. So people are buying it, which means Ryan, it's another win for the chat. It's a win. The chat is now tied with me. It's 3-2 to 3. Because I'm with you on the sell train, man. I'm with you all the way on the sell train. Here's the thing. I don't know if I've said this on the show or not. This year, I made a big decision in my life as a draft enjoyer, as somebody that watches players and does some amateur scouting.
You stopped reading mock drafts. Oh, sorry. I was
no, that part hasn't happened yet. I still read them. I still write them. They say don't be a helmet scout. You don't want to be a helmet scout, and that's generally very good advice. I think there's some exceptions, and the exception that I've made in my life is that I am now an Ole Miss skill player helmet scout. Don't care how sexy your tape is. Don't care how fun you seem. Not doing it. If you're wearing those colors, you got Ole Miss across your helmet. Not doing it, because in the Lane Kiffin era, Ryan, who has been the best skill player of any kind? Quarterback, running back, tight end, wide receiver. Who's the best Lane Kiffin era skill player to come out of that Mickey Mouse, Looney Tunes offense?
Trey Harris? I don't know.
It might be Trey. The bar's that low, right?
Yeah.
Is it Elijah Moore?
Quinshot Judkins.
Okay, that's a cheating, but okay. Yeah, it's nobody. It's nobody.
Matt Corral.
Yeah,
Jordan
CFL
Teamu.
Quarterback Matt Corral.
Jordan
Who'd
Teamu.
you say? Okay,
Jordan
sure.
Teamu.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying, "Who's that?" So I'm not doing it. I'm not buying it at all. I still think that Jalen Milroe is quarterback 3 in this class, and he'll probably be the third guy off the board at the top of the second round. I don't think any of these guys are going first round besides the top 2. I think that's partly due to their talent and just general scouting. I think it's also partly due to how much depth there is at these other pivotal positions. Like, our team's going to be passing up the possibility to take guys in this stacked edge group or stacked defensive line group or stacked running back group or the beginning of the wide receiver conversation with some of those best players coming off the board in the 20s and the 30s to take Jackson Dart. No, they're not.
And to strengthen your argument, I saw I think Drayton had said AJ Brown. AJ Brown was the Hugh Freeze era. So that was the era of DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, those guys. So
yeah, that very back end.
They might have actually been Jordan Teamu era as well, so maybe he's not a.
Oh no, take him off the board.
Might not be anyway.
Devastating.
So, yeah.
The other thing, I see everybody talking about like he can make the throws, he's got the physical ability. For me, it's like, can we start with can he handle a basic NFL playbook? Because he didn't run anything close to it at Ole Miss. And when we saw him, try to operate a shell, I mean, it's not really fair, but like part of me is going to just lean into this, that we saw him try to run a bare bones shell of an NFL playbook at the Senior Bowl. And he really struggled to do that and seemed confused and lost. And so that's not his fault either. Like, that's a Lane problem. That's a you went to the wrong school problem. So I'm out. I don't buy it at all, which means the chat wins on that one, which means we're moving on here. And we've got 3 more narratives to tackle before we get to some sports trivia to end it off today. But first, got to tell you all about our friends at the Bone and Joint Institute. Been talking all day about how we've got that Doc Talk segment coming for you on YouTube later today. Make sure to check that out on our YouTube sometime around maybe after lunchtime today. But the Bone and Joint Institute are fantastic. First of all, they're the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedics and sports medicine. Check them out at boneandjointtn.org. Whenever you get hurt in life, you got to know who to trust, and you can trust the Bone and Joint Institute of Tennessee. At the Bone and Joint Institute, they are over there off of I-65, right there in Franklin. You can see them from the interstate. There's over a dozen specialists in that building who can help you through any type of injury. They got a state-of-the-art rehab facility on campus to help you with your recovery after your surgery. Bone and Joint can do everything under that one roof for your convenience. They got a clinic, testing, imaging, surgery, rehab. They are a full operating shop over there, a one-stop shop. To schedule an appointment with Bone and Joint TN, go to boneandjointtn.org today.
Again, folks, make sure you hit that like button for us. If you are listening to us live on YouTube, if you're re-listening, make sure to do that. And then also share the podcast. We have free agency obviously coming up very quickly here. It'll be a blink of an eye before the draft. So anything Titans related, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. And if you are listening on anywhere, all of your favorite podcast platforms, we are streaming live on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Make sure you hit a like button and subscribe and share over there as well.
All right. Last couple narratives here to break, to myth bust this morning. 3 more, and then we're going to get to some sports trivia. These ones are less Titans related, but they are draft relevant, and we want to talk about them because there's nobody here to tell us that we can't. So we're going to go through some maybe not so Titan specific things today. Want to get y'all's buys or sells, see who wins down the stretch here. Team Easton and Team Chat are tied at 3 apiece. Ryan, looking for a big comeback, needs to win a couple of these. The next narrative is LSU's Will Campbell is the best offensive tackle in the draft. Will Campbell, offensive tackle 1. Are you buying or selling that Will Campbell is going to be tackle 1 off the board? Is he tackle 1 in your heart? Ryan, I'm back up to go first on this one, and I'm selling it. This is a very simple situation where he has the requisite, I think he has the requisite athleticism. I think he has absolutely between the ears all you could want and more from an NFL lineman. From what I heard in Indianapolis and from what I've heard since, everybody that met with that guy was over the moon impressed with him as a football character, a football mind, a locker room guy, a meeting room guy. He's practically a coach on the field for you, playing the tackle or guard position. And I unfortunately think he's going to be playing guard because he's just not got the length you need. And this is a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me situation where, I was pretty much the president of the Let Skoronski Try a Tackle fan club before the Titans ever took him, and then certainly after the Titans took him. And, having conversations with the Titans' old regime, their new regime, everybody that I've ever talked to about this says that before the draft even began, just in the scouting process, it was clear to them and clear to the teams that they talked to, Skoronski, it's not going to happen. Skoronski was going to play guard at the next level. He was going to be an awesome guard, but it was going to be at the guard position. And that was a guy who had, sub 33-inch arms and was, I'd say, a little bit less athletic than you're going to have in a Will Campbell. Now, the reason why the reason why I'm not buying the bump in athleticism being enough to put Will Campbell over the top here is that his length is even more disappointing. He's got the smallest wingspan that I have ever seen. Right, it
was like 77 and something, right?
Right. It's a number. It's in the 77 and change, which it's a number so low that when you go to Mock Draftable's database, there is not a tackle, and they don't include just good tackles. They include all the tackles that have ever played tackle in the NFL. There's not a tackle on the board in the 77s ever. His arm length is, I think, just a hair like an eighth or 2/8 of an inch longer than what Skoronski had, but still well sub 33 inches. Now, caveat there, side note, combine measurements. I don't really know what the deal is on we've got some guys grew and shrank pretty drastically between the senior and Shrine Bowls and the combine, and it was the same folks doing the measuring. So I don't know what the deal is there.
It was mostly shrinking too, which is usually the opposite. Usually,
well, except for Jalen Milrow's hands, his hands got a lot bigger, but everybody else shrunk. You're right. The bottom line is that teams are going to take their own measurements and trust their own measurements. Like, they're not going to go with the stock measurements on these guys, I think, because it's been so strange. So I'm selling it. I think that Armand Membu is a close to the same caliber of player just in general as a lineman to me. Like, I think that he's kind of being slept on. I think that when you watch this awesome edge class, many of them being SEC players, when you get to their Missouri tape, you'd be like, oh yeah, boss fight. And Membu would win most of the time. Like, he passes the sniff test for me, and he's also a prototypical tackle. I think that he will be the first tackle off the board. I won't be surprised at all if you get Membu at 4, 5, 6, and Will Campbell falls into that Skoronski range of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I think that Membu is tackle 1. I think Will Campbell's going to be an awesome guard at the next level. I just do not buy that he is going to be able to, and I know teams want, for some reason, teams have convinced themselves that unlike Skoronski, they want to give him a chance at tackle. I just don't really get why.
So it's a very unique conversation because if Josh Simmons from Ohio State never got hurt during this year, I think that he's
tackle 1.
And I don't even think it's like, it's a debate still, but I don't think it's a true debate because he's
No, I
true,
agree.
like he's one of the few left tackles in this class, so just aren't true of them. I'm
Mhm.
actually going to buy this one though, just because
Wow. Okay.
we can finagle this conversation a little bit because we're saying he's the first tackle off the board. If he's announced as a tackle, even though he plays majority of guard in his career, he's still a tackle selected first. You know what I mean overall. So
All
I do.
right.
I'm just saying, man. There's some
Skoronski was
technicalities to this
technically
conversation.
tackle drafted.
Did they announce him as a tackle? Did they
I
announce
don't. I don't.
Skoronski as a tackle?
I don't
I don't know.
know.
Sure.
I don't know.
You
Maybe
would know
not.
better than me on that one, but I will buy it just based upon I think that he will be announced as a tackle, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's allowed to fail at tackle before he's eventually moved inside the guard. Someone compared him to Connor Williams a few years ago coming out of Texas. Now he's obviously a better prospect than Connor Williams, but Connor Williams kind of had those same questions, right? Like you're a pretty good athlete, but you'll only play tackle at Texas, but your arms are shorter length, you don't have a great wingspan, like all those types of things. So I'm gonna buy it that he's announced as a tackle and he gets a chance as a tackle, and he's the first tackle in quotation marks selected. But if I had to bet on what position he settles into long term, it would be guard. But I'm going to cheat a little bit here to hopefully get an advantage. But I don't know.
All
If I'm
right.
gonna
Let's
win or
check.
not
Let's
way.
check the chat here. I think this is going to be close. As I read
Okay.
these off, Ryan, I need you to tally on your hands.
Okay. I'm
Buys and
definitely not going to
sells.
cheat at all on this.
Come on, come on, have some honor.
Okay.
All right. Lou Chesney says he's selling.
Okay.
Eric and Steven and Major are all buying.
Okay.
Andre and Darius and Top Tier are selling. So selling is up by 1 here.
Yep.
But Jake is buying and Raul is buying. So buying back up by 1.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff is selling, not using the word, but he is selling. We're back to tied. Yep. Jackson is buying, a lead for buy. Back to even, sell from Tall Texan. Mm-hmm. Sell and sell and sell. That's 4 points lead for sell. Uh-oh. Up the stretch. Sell, 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 sell. My goodness. They're selling. Everyone's selling. It's an everything must go clearance. I think that I win. I think that there's a clear win. I think that once I started making my point that the people came around. That's tough. Too. That is tough for you. So 4 points for Easton. Heading into the final 2, Ryan needs to sweep. And if he sweeps, then we're going to have to, on the fly, come up with a final. Maybe we'll make the last one worth 2 points to make things interesting. We got 2 more narratives here to get to. Let's go ahead and knock them out. The eighth narrative that we have here on the board is 2 running backs will go in the first round of the NFL draft. Are we buying or selling that 2 running backs will go in the first round of the NFL draft? Ryan, I'll let you go first on this one. The guys in question are obviously Ashton Genty. And then there's some debate, but I would say that the vast majority of folks see Omarion Hampton out of UNC as that next guy, as that potential first round flavor. What do you think?
I think it's a sell. It's a sell for me just based upon I think that Genty is a slam dunk first rounder. I think that he could go top 20 for sure. I think that he's definitely I think it's Dallas at 12 or 13. Like that's the name, that's the spot that he's been mocked to a million
Bears
times,
at what, 10? Bears at 10?
Raiders also.
All this guard movement.
It's early for a running back, but the Raiders
want to go from easily the worst run game in the entire league to just jumpstart it with Genty. I like that idea. Sure.
Oh yeah. Genty will be a first rounder. Omarion Hampton's a conversation points. I think he's the most likely guy to get into the first rounds because then you have a bunch of good running backs, right? Like Caleb Johnson from Iowa. You have Travion Henderson from Ohio State. Like there's a lot of DJ Giddens from Kansas State. There's a lot of really good running backs in the class. But that's why I'm buying this. I'm selling. Wait. 2 running backs will get taken. I'm selling it. I think I said it backwards again. I am selling it. Genty's the only running back. I think there's a heavy run on running backs day 2 into day 3. But I think the fact that there's so many good ones is going to make some teams in the back half especially say, why would I take a guy at 22 when I can get somebody just in the same type of caliber later in this class? So I am going to sell it. I'm just going to say there's only 1 running back selected in the first rounds.
I'll give my take while you go look to see what the chat is having to say, Ryan. I'll keep it brief. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to go on the other side of you just because it feels like in recent seasons when we have had a guy where we're like, or a group of guys, we're like, one of these guys probably going to be a first rounder. It somehow works out that 2 of them are a first rounder. And we're like, oh, Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. All right, sure. Oh, CEH at 32 or whatever it was. All right, sure. And some of them work out, some of them don't. But
Yep.
teams convince themselves of it. And I think that there's still some of that old school blood in some of these hounds. They want to hunt for a running back in the first round. They want to get their guy who can tote the rock and be the bell cow face of the franchise kind of guy. So I'm going to say that it happens, and I couldn't tell you who. It'll be Genty at like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then it'll be some team in the at 28 that's like, oh, there he goes, Omarion Hampton. There he goes off the board to the Commanders or whoever the heck decides that he's their guy. So I will say that I'm buying it. What is the chat saying?
The chat is, we have an early sell here. Then we have a buy from Lewis. We have a buy from Mario. We have a buy from Top Tier. We have a sell from Marvo BZ. We have a buy from Orlando, sell from Brad, buy from Jeff, buy from Andre. We have a sell from David. We have a sell from Marvo. We have a sell from AJ Pierce. We have a buy again from Ashley, a buy from Kenneth, a sell from Darius, a buy from Steven, sell from Curtis. I think it's kind of split, man. I think it's a little bit split.
Oh, you think it's split?
I think it's a little split. I don't know. Tall Texan with a sell. We have a buy from Jackson. We have sell. We have buy. Cameron Scatabo. Oh, boy.
Oh my goodness.
Throw a name in there that was not expected there. I think it's pretty split. I think it's pretty split. I didn't do it in my head, but it feels very split to me.
All right, that's fine. That's fine. I feel like I won, but it's fine. I'm already in the lead, so it's fine. We got one more to go here, but we'll keep it interesting.
I'm
split.
already throwing out defeat. I know I lost.
It's all right. No, it wasn't even a game to begin with, but we turned it into one. The final draft narrative that we're myth busting this morning before we get to some sports trivia and get out of here. Here's the last one for you. We'll keep this one brief, even though it could be a long conversation. So we'll try our best to keep this brief. The off-field concerns for these three defensive linemen will impact their draft stock. And those three linemen are James Pierce out of Tennessee, Mike Green out of Marshall, and Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. All three guys, very different stories in terms of the red flags off the field. But the question is, are you buying or selling this final buy or sell of the day that the off-field concerns for Pierce, Green, and Nolan will impact their draft stock? Ryan, I'll go first on this last one.
Yep.
And I'll keep it brief. I do think that it's going to. I think when you continue to see very deeply plugged in insiders like Daniel Jeremiah and Lance Zierlein and Dane Brugler and all these guys that you trust to not only know what they're talking about from a scouting standpoint, but to know what they're talking about in terms of the buzz around the league and talking to teams and private conversations. When you see those guys have their big boards and it's like all three of these guys are top 20, top 25 talents. Wow, these guys rock. And then you see them in their mock drafts have all of them fall out of the first round over and over and over. I think that tells you something. And I think that is why I feel like ultimately, James Pierce is probably an Eagle and it's going to piss everybody off. And he's going to, be the guy that goes at 32. He is very, I tweeted this like 2 weeks ago. He is high on my list of how we watch guys that are going to leave people on draft night saying, how did we let him get away with this? Unbelievable. The Eagles defense, you thought it couldn't be any better, and it's already better. So I think that and again, James Pierce, it's the big question is, does he have a heart for football? Does he love football? Mike Green, it is actual incidents that you can go and read about on the internet, that things that happened with him in high school and then at Virginia or West Virginia? Virginia. Yep. And then those two things are sort of similar, sort of not, and you can be the judge on that. Just Google that. And then Walter Nolan, he was at Texas A&M before being at Ole Miss. From people that I've talked to, it's kind of split. Some folks say they hear things from Ole Miss that are concerning. Some folks say they're hearing concerning things, but they're only from Texas A&M. So maybe it's like a bitterness thing. I don't know exactly what I'm the least versed on that one, but I do know that again, he's a guy that folks have falling on their board when they simultaneously think that he's a top whatever talent. And to me, that signals somebody, knows something that I don't about these guys. So I think they'll all fall a little bit more than their talent dictates.
I agree. I'm hitting the buy on this one as well. I in my intel piece at A to Z Sports, when I got out of the combine, this was literally a topic of conversation. They were literally in the same section of this article where I talked about the three guys that I have the biggest off-field concerns with. The Mike Green stuff, that's a legal issue. Then some things that you have to figure out from the past. The other two, it's more of the character stuff, right? Like James Pierce. And James Pierce, like, it's not that he's a bad kid or a bad person at all,
No.
right? It's just, does
Does
he
he love
want to
football?
be great, right? Like,
Yeah.
does he want to be a really good player? Like, there are some questions of just the work habits of a James Pierce Jr. Walter Nolan, it's a little, you can just go read about it, right? Like, not the best teammate, maybe not the best worker. Like, there's a lot there potentially. So I'm absolutely buying it. There are just in the work with how the world is today, man, where things have so much public access, right? So much access to the past and what people have done and what people haven't done and all those types of things. I think it makes it more likely for teams to take those things really harshly and to drop guys down because we know that the media is going to harp on those types of things. So I will say that I am buying that there will be some negative feedback and some dropping for each of those players to different degrees.
All right, so we're both buying it. So is Ashley in the chat, but Ira Hoshi and Lou, man, are selling it. Mario is buying it. Curtis and Eric and Andre are all selling it. Andre, like expired milk. That seems unethical to sell expired milk, Andre. You shouldn't do that. Kenneth says he's buying it, as is Brad. Steven selling big time. Darius selling big time. People are they have strong opinions on this one. Jeff is buying it. Top Tier is buying it. David is selling it. The Tall Texan is selling it. Michael is buying. Jackson is buying. Orlando is buying. I saw it. I'm looking for. Oh yeah, Andre says that all three will end up with the Eagles, Chiefs, and Lions, and then they'll be good because they'll be with contenders in good situations. So yeah, that's the self-fulfilling prophecy here.
And that matters, not to cut you up, but like that matters for these situations because you have to be a strong infrastructure to deal with some of this stuff, right? Like that stuff does matter. I know we always say like, well, they got another steal. It's like, but if player X would have been drafted by
a Raider,
Cleveland Browns, like it would have been like that would have been a disaster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that stuff does matter.
It does. All right, so that's it. Those are all 9 of our draft media, post-combine, pre-free agency narrative myth busting. Hope that was fun. I had a lot of fun. Ryan enjoyed it. We've still got some time left here. We make sure we don't have any super chats to get to. We do have a couple super chats to get to, so let's get to those real quick. Andre says the Raiders and Jets this year and Giants last year is why for him waiting till next year to try and move up for a quarterback is silly. It sounds good, but not a sure thing. Ryan, what's your opinion on this? Because for me, I see teams that do this relatively frequently, and it actually works out for them. And so it's not as concerning to me to the whole wait game and the easy kind of lazy pushback to me of, well, how do you know you're going to be in position to get that guy? We see teams every year not wait and it doesn't work out, and we see teams every year do wait and it does work out. So I think it's just all about your conviction on the player. And I think if you're evaluating it from a should we wait, shouldn't we wait standpoint, then you're missing the plot. You're missing the point, which is in a vacuum. Do you think this is your guy or not?
Yeah, this is the Hall of Fame conversation of whether people should make the Hall of Fame. To me, it comes down to one simple question: are they great or are they not? Do you love them or do you not? If you love them, you take them. If you don't, you don't. If you have to convince yourself on a player, then you don't like him enough, right? So that's when you say, nope, we're gonna balk here. We're gonna move. We're gonna play the future card. That's what it comes down to me. It should be as easy as that cut and dry question. If you love a player, draft him. If you don't. That's as simple as I can make it.
Yep. All right. So thank you, Andre, for that. And then Dre Love finally says, I really like the new addition of Ryan to the show. So good job, Ryan. You get a $5 rave review. And Easton, I couldn't stand you at first. You've become one of my favorites easily. That's the story for most folks in my life. So I'm not surprised by that one bit. All right. So that's it for our show today, except Ryan and I are going to try to avenge our less than satisfactory. Yeah, I'd say it's less. Yeah, that's fair. Less than satisfactory sports trivia from yesterday. So as soon as Easton learns where the sports trivia thing is, we'll get going. Shout out to our friends at Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai. 1 minute, Brian. Hold your.
I jumped the gun. I'm sorry. I jumped the gun.
But you were ready, and that's what we were looking for. Shout out to our friends at Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your car buying experience today. Check them out, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. All right, now, Ryan, hold the line. Wait for it for Easton to share his screen.
Line.
And you may now do it. except Easton hasn't clicked it yet. Hang on. And is it going to pop up? Oh.
Oh, no.
Royal bot. No, it's fine. Leave it. It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Leave it.
Hang on. There it is.
We'll get this one day. Don't worry.
Hopefully, that's not a foreshadowing of how this trivia is going to go. All right. So, folks, if you're still with us, thanks for being here for another long show. They're probably just all going to be long until Austin gets back here to keep Easton on time. Just reading the chat, making sure folks are ready to go. Okay, here we go. So, yes, Orlando says hopefully less than 5 minutes. The gold standard around here, Ryan, or in this box, apparently you're Easton, I'm Austin. The gold standard, yes, Easton, is sub 4 minutes, no misses. So 9 green squares, sub 4 minutes. It's a high bar, but that's what we're shooting for today. Let's see. Okay. No hockey today. That's good. College basketball, I like my chances there better than I like my hockey chances. So that's good.
I feel good. I feel good about this board. I feel better about this board than I did feel yesterday. So I think we'll be.
I like this. And Jeff, Easton is Austin. Ryan is Easton. Yeah, I still have not changed. I don't know where this. I have to go ask somebody to find this graphic because I've not changed it yet. Whoops. All right. So we'll start with NFL. Chat, lock in. Lou Chesney says 10-minute trivia. If we go 10 minutes, then we're never doing trivia again. We're never doing it again. Don't say that. Are we ready? Ready? Yes. Locked in? All right. NFL. Yes. After 4 seasons with an NFC West team, this wide receiver had his first 1,000-yard season with the Jaguars in 2022. In the news yesterday, Christian Kirk.
Wait, what?
Christian Kirk, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Oh my God, I didn't even see 2022.
No, you're good.
It was Jimmy Smith started his career with the Dallas Cowboys, and then he went to Jaguars.
Yep, that checks. Christian Kirk. All right, a candidate for the 2016 Republican nominee. This former Florida senator is now the U.S. Secretary of State. That would be Marco Rubio.
That would be Marco Rubio.
All right, good start so far. Television. Before his run on The Rookie, Nathan Fillion had the lead role in this ABC crime mystery dramedy. That's a lot of things. Crime mystery dramedy from 2009 to 2016. I'm going to know this when I hear it.
Yeah.
I can picture it. I can picture the commercial. Shoot. Chad, help us out here. What's the name of this show?
Yeah.
I will know it's Castle. Yep.
Castle. I've literally watched Castle too, which is
it's Castle.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson had the lead role in this 2005 biographical sports drama that features Channing Tatum, Robert Richard, and Ashanti.
It's what's the basketball movie? It's
we established this yesterday that I don't watch.
I know you're movies. Not. It is what
did you hear?
Is that basketball movie called? It is. Dang.
Chat.
I just
Coach Carter.
Coach Carter. Yeah, it's Coach
All right.
Carter.
Is that it?
Dang it. Yes, it's Coach Carter. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Music. Time keeps on slipping into the future are lyrics from this song released by the Steve Miller Band in 76, later covered by Seal in 96.
Fly like an
eagle? Fly like an eagle? Yeah.
Fly like an eagle? Has to be. Yeah.
Is that what that's fly like and good alarms going off. Fly like an eagle.
Yep.
Yeah. Snacks and candy. A competitor to Hostess and Entenmann's, this snack cake brand is known for cookie bars, crimpets, and candy cakes, and has a blue and white color scheme for most of its packaging. I'm pretty sure cakes is in the name with a K.
Tasty Cakes, right?
Is it Tasty Cakes? Okay.
Tasty Cakes, yeah.
That sounds right. Tasty Cake. Yep. All right. Good stuff. Nicknamed Dunk City, this school made a Cinderella run as the 15th seed in the 2013 Sweet 16. Oh, I know this.
George Mason? Is it George Mason? No.
Is it? Was it George Mason? Is that right?
I know they made a nice run. I don't know if it's them or not.
George Mason. Is that GMU or But no, it wasn't Butler.
It wasn't Butler. Florida Gulf Coast? Is it Florida Gulf Coast?
It was FGCU. It was. It totally was. Okay, MLB. With a career spanning 1990 to 07, Jeff Conan had 2 different stints with this National League franchise and won a World Series during both.
Oh, the Marlins.
Is it?
I think. Did they win 2? I know Jeff Conan played for the Florida Marlins for sure. For sure, he played with the Florida Marlins.
Should we take a shot here? Chat. Okay, people said Marlins. Yes, all right, Marlins. Yes. All right, we're doing good. Name these 2 All right, Rainn Wilson.
Yes.
Oh, I know the other person too.
You do?
Yeah, she's the girl in Austin Powers. She's one of the Austin Powers girls. What's her name? I just watched that movie recently. Oh, what's her name? Folks.
Someone said Mark Ruffalo in the chat?
No. Heather Graham. Yep, Heather Graham.
Is that who it is?
It totally is. Bang!
Yeah, sub 4. Sub 4. There we go.
43. That's how you play sports trivia right there. Holy cow. That's incredible. Great job to us. Great job to the chat. Locked in this morning. Round of applause. Round of applause, everybody. That was great. We're probably not ever beating that. 343. Yeah, roller girl, David said. Yep. 100%.
I do not enjoy those celebrity mashups. Those things are weird to me.
The last two have been kind of tough. I mean, that Rainn Wilson one was pretty easy, and I kind of pulled the if I hadn't just watched Heather Graham.
I never would have gotten the Heather Graham one. I would have.
I would never. I wouldn't have gotten her name until somebody said it, and I wouldn't have known unless I had just watched an Austin Powers. So, good job to everybody in the chat. Shout out everyone that helped. Shout out you, Ryan, for doing a great job on the show today. 4th show in the bag, getting better every time. We'll be back tomorrow talking a little free agency preview because, folks, legal tampering. We're currently in the illegal tampering portion of the programming. The legal tampering begins on the 10th, which is Monday. So we'll be talking all about what we expect to happen next week, the deals that are going to come down hot and heavy that are just, they happen to be negotiated in the first 7 seconds of legal tampering. Love how that always happens. Whether the Titans should or shouldn't retain some of their free agents. We'll be talking all about that and more from a more Titans specific standpoint on the show tomorrow. Until then, make sure you like the show on your way out. Make sure you leave that 5-star Google review for us. Help us out. Be back here tomorrow morning, same time, same place. For Ryan Roberts, I'm your host, Houston Freeze. We'll talk to you then.